First, we want to set the scene for why are we even making a comparison. So this is one of the latest, I think it's today, a few hours ago, 9 hours ago. So this is one of the later news sort of segments, corporate news segments on the topic. So we're going to start here. But first, let's make sure join our Substack so you get notifications of when we go live in clips. Also, thank you because we hit 29,000 overnight. Thank you. We're on our way to 30,000, which was our goal. Now, we're going to hit our goal. It might be a month or two past the time we wanted to do it, but we still hit it. I'll take it 2 months after our original goal. I'll take that to hit 30,000. But thank you for those that have been subscribing. We're at 120 or so likes, 130 or so likes, but we have 200 people watching. Could we push another 55 or so people? Let's get to like 185. Let's get to 185 likes for this segment. We need a lot of people in the chat so that we can have this discussion. I'm hoping that there are some progressive people, progressive Democrats in the chat that may push back on and say, hey, wait. No, George Santos is different than Joe Biden. And here's why. Because we would love to hear your point of view. So if you hit that like button, let's get some more people into the chat. And let's continue. All right, so liars, George versus Joe. And let's start here with this video here.
This morning, Republican leaders have assigned New York Congressman George Santos seats on 2 House committees while he faces federal and state investigations. He recently acknowledged embellishing his resume, making up details about his work experience in education, including his claim that he attended Baruch College.
Did you graduate from Baruch? Did you graduate from there?
Yeah.
So did I.
I did.
But he did not. And now, in a newly surfaced radio interview, Santos is heard falsely claiming he was also a star volleyball player at Baruch.
Look, I sacrificed both my knees and got very nice knee replacements from HSS playing volleyball.
Critics also accuse Santos of misrepresenting himself as Jewish. A former roommate says Santos often used 2 names while raising money for his animal rescue nonprofit.
He used Zabrowski for his Friends of Pets United, his GoFundMe, and he would say, "Oh well, you know, the Jews will give more if you're a Jew."
There's no evidence that nonprofit ever existed. Now, Democratic Congressman Richie Torres is requesting the Federal Election Commission investigate how Santos financed his campaign. Santos reportedly lent more than $700,000 to the campaign after earning just $55,000 2 years earlier.
Mr. Santos either illegally coordinated with an independent expenditure or he illegally received a campaign contribution through a pass-through. In either case, Mr. Santos likely broke campaign finance law.
Santos has not responded to the complaint sent to the FEC. The 2 House committees assigned to Santos are low profile, the Science, Space, and Technology Committee and the Small Business Committee. Meanwhile, House Republicans have reinstated Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar to committees. They were stripped of their assignments in 2021.
They had to include that.
Violent extremism. Both are now joining the influential House Oversight Committee.
They had to include the Marjorie Taylor Greene part. They had to slip that in before that segment was over. Very interesting. All right, so let's go now to a clip from or about Joe Biden. So that's George Santos. I think that's how you say his name, Santos. And now let's go to this clip with Joe Biden and let's see if it's any. Do you hear any similarities in these 2 people, these 2 liars, pretty much? Oops.
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
You know, I was thinking on the way over here. Now, that's a little too much because, as you point out, what's behind the words? What's there? And a lot of people, the rap on Biden has always been that it's just a surface.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge that Biden had appropriated a...
You know how they go, George Santos said this and they keep finding out other lies? Isn't this the same thing? He's like, oh, that's the only time I said it. And oh, but we found this other time when... Like this George Santos is Joe Biden reincarnated.
A famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
The health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Like Ukraine.
I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
You don't steal verbatim, or when you do, as he did 99% of the time, you give credit.
Biden's critics say he sells himself as a man whose words and visions can inspire a new generation in politics. But if the thoughts, phrases, and visions really belong to others, it's a form of false advertising.
Is it a wise idea, though, to take something that personal, anyway, from another politician and try and appropriate it to your own campaign?
I think it was a stupid thing to appropriate material that was really very personal, that was someone else's.
Most people didn't know who he was, Joe Biden, and now they're going to say, oh, yeah, he's the guy who plagiarized. That's
a lot of people.
Politically, that's devastating. These clips are devastating. He looks like a Joe Biden wind-up doll with somebody else's words coming out.
If they're going to do things that are stupid as well as immoral, then they're probably too dumb to have the job of president.
Voters are going to have to decide whether he was dishonest or dumb.
Senator Joseph Biden may have more explaining to do.
The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign.
Do you not keep seeing these different news reports like we're seeing about George Santos? Do you not see that? This is the same thing. We're seeing all these news reports. Oh, this find out is the same. He had a same section of a time of his history where the same exact thing happened. All right, let's finish this one out.
Campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student.
Oh, none of that. How is that not what George Santos is doing and has done? I did this. What was it? He was a track star. I think I'm gonna get to a video that names some of his stuff, but he was some sort of, what was it, hockey or tennis, volleyball player or something like that. This is the same thing. Who did it best though? Who's doing it best? George Santos? Is he doing a good Joe Biden? Let's continue with this and then we can move to the main event, which is the analysis of the foreign policy discovered in the video of Vanguard interviewing Kyle Kulinski. So I'm gonna rewind it just so you can hear that last funny part. It's funny to me, so let's go.
My class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
And I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Joe Biden was victimized by the truth.
Bye Biden. He may not know it yet, but I think this is going to be very difficult for him to recover.
Is Joe Biden dead meat, yes or no? I think so. Bob? It's in terminal condition.
Terminal. Eleanor.
Yes, unless he comes in third in Iowa.
Morton. Dying.
I say dead. We'll be right back.
Yeah. All right. So it's really true. This is more of a funny story. This is not really a serious story because this is funny.
Critics also accuse Santos of misrepresenting himself as Jewish. A former roommate says.
Hit the back button, but let's go to another thing here. Kyle appears in this segment also because he points out the lie. And like Emma in the beginning, the intro, one of the intro videos, the second intro video that I did, where she's talking about his lying. I think this is the same event, but let's listen. Oh, let's unmute it first.
Biden was caught in an absolutely absurd lie while campaigning in South Carolina.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
So when people heard this, everybody's like, whoa, wait. You were arrested while trying to see Nelson Mandela. That's a big story. In fact, it's so big, it had to be like reported at the time, right? Right? So they went back and they were like, that's weird. Seems to be no evidence of that. That UN ambassador that he just referenced, that guy's still around. They went and asked that guy. That guy's like, no, didn't happen. Joe, what are you doing, Joe? What are you doing? He acts like he's still stuck way back in the day when there weren't cameras at every single event. Bro, you're on tape. You're on video. What are you doing? That's a Trumpian level lie. That might even eclipse a Trumpian lie. Well, no, Trump has told some amazing ones in his life. I didn't go bankrupt is one of my favorites, when his businesses went bankrupt at least 6 times. When he said that wasn't me, the John Miller, remember the John Miller story where he would call people at these magazines and tell them amazing stories about himself, and he was pretending like he was Trump's publicist, John Miller. He's like, nope, that wasn't me. Nope, not even true. Not even. And it's
so Kyle's bringing up another president that lies. Another president. So you have Donald Trump, you have Joe Biden, or politician. I said president. Another politician that lies, and this is the reason why I have this here. Lying is part of the job. Lying is part of the job. So let's listen to a little more of what he says here, and then we'll round it out with one last video. We'll loop back to that Emma video.
Ethics of this are terrible too. South Carolina, a lot of the Democratic voters there are people of color. They're black folks. And you like went out of your way to tell a lie specifically about a historical figure who's very important in the black community the world over, Nelson Mandela. I mean, what a hero. And you tell a lie like that? Guys, if Bernie Sanders told that lie, do you have any idea what the backlash would be? They would be screaming for him to drop out. They'd say this is unforgivable. Look at this. He's got to lie in order to look more appealing to black voters. How sad is that? How pathetic is that? Drop out. You're shameful what you just did. Shameful. Get out of here. But when it's Joe Biden, not much talk about it. There's been, to be fair, there's been some articles that covered it, which is good. But there's really not much talk. Certainly they've ignored it in mainstream media. They're like effectively trying to bury it. And his campaign like casually backed off of it. Took a couple steps back. But this, I mean, it's so amazing. Like he could just do this and kind of get away with it because he's got a media apparatus that's not really doing their job well. And by the way, Biden is not their favorite candidate. He's just not. I think that the media would much rather have Mayor Pete. I think the media would much rather have Klobuchar.
Okay, he goes into some other part. Now let's go to the Emma video. And I think we'll be able to round out this segment and get to the main event because it is a longer video. The analysis,
so Joe Biden
analysis is a longer video. So, but let's listen again to this where they kind of cover the Mandela part again. So I'm going to kind of fast forward back to the part similar to where we left off from the intro.
Saying the story. So Joe Biden's 2020 campaign has admitted the former vice president was not arrested for trying to visit Nelson Mandela at a South African prison during apartheid after the Democratic candidate used the claim at least 3 times during appearances in recent weeks. In campaign visits to Nevada and South Carolina, Mr. Biden claimed he was arrested with the US ambassador to the United Nations in Soweto, despite there being no publicly available evidence of the incident. It is also unclear why Mr. Biden would have been arrested in Soweto for trying to visit Mandela, as the city is hundreds of miles away from the island where the anti-apartheid activist was imprisoned. He took a trip with a congressional delegation in the 70s. This is their excuse. He was separated from the Congressional Black Caucus members he was traveling with at the airport when he landed. Kate Bedingfield, Mr. Biden's communications director, told reporters on Wednesday. When making that remark, he was talking about his long record fighting apartheid. He was one of the leading voices in the United States Senate in the 80s. However, Ms. Bedingfield could not justify Mr. Biden's use of the word arrest or a coda he added to the story in which Mandela personally thanked him over the incident. And that seems very unlikely that Mandela thanked him for trying to visit him when that never actually happened.
I don't envy the job of these communications directors where they have to be like, well, yeah, but when he said that, he was talking about his long record. Okay, no, I get, yeah, he's got the long record. He also viciously lied. That was a crazy, absurd lie. And it was out before the South Carolina debate, but they didn't ask him about it. Pete Buttigieg has some scandals in his past. They asked him about his scandals, but for Biden, they didn't. And it's not the first. This isn't one random slip of the brain. Biden has been exaggerating or wholly falsifying his behavior during the civil rights movement for decades now. Sean King has done a great job of documenting many, many cases stretching back many, many years. It is all out there. And if they don't trust him, they can go back and they can look at those speeches and they can talk to the people.
So what's the difference in Joe Biden's lies and histories of lies from their own words in the progressive movement than George Santos? Because it's
freshman
like
Republican
you vote for this liar called Joe Biden, but you call for this other liar somehow that's somehow different or some sort of different thing. Now he's terrible. Nobody's saying George Santos is good. He's terrible, but the point of you're supporting a liar. You're literally supporting a liar and you're voting for a liar and sticking up for a liar.